a session at 6 p.m. last night. After 2 minutes, I became aware of the sound of a bird. I noted it as listening. The teacher says, "Did you hear the bird on the rising or the falling breath?" I didn't notice. Please do better. And then as you're leaving, did you awaken this morning on a rising breath or a falling breath? I didn't notice. You'll do better. So you start from the minute you wake up, just, rising, falling, and you do it until finally there's just the breath. It's quite extraordinary what happens. I won't go into it because that's the advanced course, but
Kindred souls, as we begin, we take a moment to honor the foundational hearts, the ones who saw the need for this sanctuary and dared to plant the seed. We acknowledged every hand that has tended this garden, from the first whispered idea to the vibrant evolution we sit in today. To those who began this group, your seva has created a clearing in the woods where we can finally breathe. Today, we honor that service by being fully present. We recognize that our collective strength is built upon your individual commitment to self-seva, the quiet daily practice of returning to your own heart. Because you chose to work on yourselves, we have a place to work together. We are here, we are seen, and we are home. Walking each other home, chapter 4, is the chapter from Ram Dass and Paul Gorman's How Can I Help? Stories of Reflections and Service. And it's the listening mind. As we settle into this sanctuary, take a moment to be here now, centering yourself in the loving awareness that brought us together today. We gather as a community that honors individual differences and celebrates the full spectrum of gender and sexuality. Ram Dass reminded us that we must have a strong sense of who we are before we can engage in social action, and this affinity group provides that essential inclusion environment to explore our shared experiences soul to soul. So as we step into the new year, we are evolving our practice. We are moving deeper into the spirit of mutuality, recognizing that every person in this circle is both a giver and a receiver. In the tradition of Pure Run Warm Lines, we're here to offer a listening ear and emotional support, not to fix or cure one another. We adopt a trauma-informed lens, shifting our focus from what is wrong to what is strong, and most importantly, what is happening right here, right now. We rest in the 3 C's. We did not cause each other's struggles. We cannot cure them, and we cannot change anyone's path. But we can, with unconditional love and unconditional high regard, walk each other home. This year, we invite you to be more than a participant. We invite you to be a co-creator. While our structure is modeled after the Love, Serve, Remembers guidelines, this is an open space for you and your direction and your voice. Everyone is invited to propose an idea for a future session or project. You're encouraged to seek the support of others here to implement your vision. Our community Zoom and YouTube account is open to you for meetings or creative endeavors. Ideas can be submitted directly to Jacqueline or shared openly in our sessions. Before we begin our reading from How Can I Help, let us hold space for the mystery of what we will create together this year. Let us engage with lightness, joy, and the brave honesty of the heart. As we prepare to leave each digital sanctuary, we offer our deepest gratitude to the co-creators and pioneers who continue to sustain this space. Your service is a living prayer. We dedicate the merit of this gathering to the journey of every soul present. As you return to your individual paths, remember that your greatest act of seva is the kindness you show yourself. May you continue your self-seva with the same devotion you give to this group. We release the stories shared here into the vault of confidentiality. We leave the roles of helper and helped behind, returning to the simplicity of being. Go gently, knowing you are never truly walking alone. Ram Ram. And to our foundational co-creators, there's a very specific kind of bravery required to build a bridge that's never existed before. By combining the teachings of loving awareness with the principles of intentional peer support, you didn't just start a group, you initiated a shift in how our two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, plus everyone else community experiences spirituality. So we thank you for your vision, seeing the intersection where our identities and our souls meet. Your courage, navigating the grist of organizational growth with a quiet mind, and your self-seva for every hour you spend in meditation, in therapy, or in nature, because that inner work is what makes this outer work possible. So you've taught us that to love, serve, and remember is not a burden, but a joy when shared in mutuality. We honor your path, we celebrate your service, and we stand on the shoulders of your love. Hi, everybody. My name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus by design. And this is a reading from Ram Dass and Paul Gorman's book, How Can I Help? Stories of Reflections on Service. And this is chapter 4, The Listening Mind. Ooh, what did I do? Burp. Try this again. Great. Chapter 4, The Listening Mind. Much of our capacity to help another person depends on our state of mind. Sometimes our minds are so scattered, confused, depressed, or agitated, we can hardly get out of bed. At other times, we're clear, alert, and receptive. We feel ready, even eager to respond generously to the needs of others. Most of the time, it's really not one extreme or the other. Our minds are, well, they're just our minds. Like old cars, typewriters, or appliances, we put up with their idiosyncrasies with a shrug. What can we do about it anyway? Perhaps we settle for too little. Our mind, after all, is our most potentially powerful tool. With it, we have harnessed fire. devised technology, extended our ability to grow and process food, developed ways to protect ourselves from the elements, discovered means to cure illness, and extend our lifespan. Our mind is not only the source of ideas, a tool for gathering data, an instrument for training and technique, or a repository of experience and memory. Because the mind's capacity to think is so brilliant, we tend to be dazzled by it and fail to notice other attributes and functions. There is more to the mind than reason alone. There's awareness itself, and what we sometimes think of as the deeper qualities of mind. Most of us know how supportive it is merely to be in the presence of a mind that is open, quiet, playful, receptive, or reflective. These attributes are themselves helpful. Moreover, there is something we frequently experience. Perhaps we can call it intuitive awareness that links us most intimately to the universe and in allegiance with the heart, binds us together in generosity and compassion. Often it leaps to vision and knowledge instantaneously. My understanding of the fundamental laws of the universe, said Albert Einstein, did not come out of my rational mind. This resource of awareness can give us access to deeper power, power to help and heal. I had been meditating for a number of years. My progress in terms of increased concentration and a more peaceful, quiet quality in the mind was noticeable, though not dramatic. In the ancient texts, I had read accounts of monks who, through meditation, had gained greater powers, and I kept wondering if the stories were true. Then I visited the wife of the former American ambassador in Thailand, and she told me about a monk who had built a monastery in which heroin and opium addicts were cured in 10 days for $15. These kinds of statistics are unheard of in the West. Possibly this was one of those monks with the meditation powers. I prevailed on her to take me to meet him. The monk had previously been a Thai narc, something like our federal drug enforcement agency. He had an aunt who I was told was a Buddhist saint, whatever that means. One day she apparently said to him while he was uh, still a narc, "What are you doing? If you don't watch out, you're going to end up killing people in this job. Why don't you help those people instead of hurting them?" He said that he didn't know how. She apparently told him to clean up his act and she'd show him. So he left government service and became a monk. Now the Buddhist monks in Thailand are part of the Theravadan tradition, which requires very severe renunciation in order to purify your mind so that you can do deep meditation. There are some 218 prohibitions, all of which he adopted. Then he even added 10 more of his own, such as never driving in automobiles. This meant that when he had business in Bangkok, about 150 miles away, he just picked up his walking stick and start walking. This rigorous training prepared him to do very intensive meditation practice, which allowed him to tune into deeper and more powerful parts of his mind. When his aunt felt he was ready, she instructed him in the preparation of an herbal diuretic, which she instructed him to give to the addicts when he started his monastery. When we met him, the most immediate reaction was that I was shaking hands with an oak tree. His presence was immensely powerful and solid. He had shown through the monastery where some 300 addicts were undergoing treatment. You could really see who was which. The first day arrivals all looked like strung out junkies. They were in one room. Then, further on, by the time that they had been there for 3 or 4 days, you could really see a change. And by 8 days, they seemed cheerful. They were bumming cigarettes from me and seemed really friendly, not particularly like addicts at all. And then after 10 days, they were gone. And their statistics showed 70% remained free of addiction afterwards. Amazing. When I interviewed this monk, I asked him, "How do you do it?" He said, "Well, it's simple. I tell them that they can only come for 10 days and they may never come again, and that the cure will work." I asked him if a lot of religious indoctrination was included in the 10-day program. No, he said, none of that. These people aren't suitable for that. I had heard that many drug experts, media people, and even some congressmen had come from the West, but that none of them could figure out why what he did worked. The herbal brew clearly wasn't the whole ball game. As I hung out with him longer, I began to realize that his mind was so centered and one pointed that his being was stronger than their addictions. And I saw that his commitment was so total that he wasn't just someone using a skill, he had died into this work. He was the cure. This was the example I had been looking for. Just being with him, I could feel the extraordinary quality of his mind. Meeting him reassured me that the ancient stories were probably true. I returned to meditation with a renewed vigor. Most of us are not really ready to become renunciates in order to develop the concentration and quality of awareness necessary to help others at such an extraordinary level. But if we are prepared to investigate our minds even a little bit, we start a process that can improve our effectiveness in life and therefore in helping as well. If we are willing to examine the agitation of our own minds and just look just beyond it, we quite readily find entry into the rooms that holding surprises are holding that hold surprising possibilities, greater inner calm, sharper concentration, deeper intuitive understanding, and an enhanced ability to hear one another's heart. Such an inquiry turns out to be critical in the work of helping others. The phone rings. We turn from the checkbook we were balancing to answer. It's someone seeking counsel. Even as the person begins to speak, our minds are conflicted. We don't quite want to leave that column of figures unadded. And yet we know that we have to let go of our bookkeeping to listen carefully to the problem. Our voice on the other end tries to find words to describe suffering. I'm just feeling so, it's like I really don't know, but painstaking work. But sometimes, even as it starts, our mind may begin to wander. This is going to be a tough one. Am I up to this? What about dinner? I'd better circle up that place where I think the bank screwed up. Or I'd better circle that place where I think the bank screwed up. At a certain stage, personal judgments may start competing for attention. He's really romanticizing it a lot. He ought to be done with this by now. This one by now. He's not hearing what I mean. We may get a little lost in evaluating. Is it working? Am I helping? Or we could easily turn to evaluation on ourselves. I don't care that much. I really don't like him. Sometimes we catch ourselves in distractions and rejoin the person on the other end of the phone. Now it's better. Sometimes something's beginning to happen. Then we take in intentionally audible in breath. We've got something helpful to say, but the signal goes by. He keeps right on talking. Off goes the mind to utterly unrelated topics. Call dad. That picture on the wall's crooked. I'm tired. I have to feed the cat. This mental chatter goes on and off. Sometimes we really get lost, and by the time we're back, we realize we've missed a key point, and it's too late to ask for it to be repeated. At other times, we can take quick notes of our reactions and still stay with it. Perhaps we just let it all run off. It's not something we even notice. It fades into the background like film score music we're hardly aware is there. Then the call is over. The voice on the other end says, "Thank you." We reply, "You're welcome." But how welcome was he? How much room did the mind give him? How much did he really hear? How much did he feel heard? Maybe we sit back in the chair and reflect on that for a moment. Or perhaps we get up, walk to the kitchen, and savor the thank you along with a sandwich. Perhaps we simply turn back to the checkbook. Reckoning, judging, evaluating, leaping in, taking it personally, being bored. The helping act has any number of invitations to reactiveness and distraction. Partly we are agitated because we so intensely want to help. After all, someone's in pain. We care. We're part of the time we are listening, but we may also be using our minds to try to solve the problem. There's a pull to be efficient, to look for some kind of resolution. We reach for certain familiar models or approaches. In order to be helpful, our analytic mind must stay on top of it all. So we jump between listening and judging. But in our zeal to help, we may increase the distance between the person and our own consciousness. We find ourselves primarily in our own thoughts, not with another person. Not only are we listening less, but the concepts our mind is coming up with start to act as a screen that pre-selects information. One thought rules out another. One of the results of all this mental activity is that there's less room to meet, less room for a new truth to emerge, less room to let things simply be revealed in their own good time. The mind tries to do too many things at once. It's difficult to know which mental vectors are useful and which are distractions, static on the line, bad connections. This agitation and reactiveness should be no surprise to most of us. We have come to expect and accept that this state of we have come to expect and accept this state, except in rare situations. Yet it need not be that way. A big, tough samurai once went to see a little monk. "Monk," he said, in a voice accustomed to instant obedience, "teach me about heaven and hell." The monk looked up at this mighty warrior and replied with the utter disdain, "Teach me about heaven and hell. I couldn't teach you about anything. You're dirty. You smell. Your blade is rusty. You're a disgrace, an embarrassment to the samurai class. Get out of my sight. I can't stand you." The samurai was furious. He shook, got all red in the face, was speechless with rage. He pulled out his sword and raised it above him, preparing to slay the monk. "That's hell," said the monk softly. The samurai was overwhelmed. The compassion and surrender of this little man who had offered his life to give his teaching to show him hell. He slowly put down his sword, filled with gratitude and suddenly peaceful. "And that's heaven," said the monk softly. If we continue to observe our mind over some time, we notice that it's not always distracted and busy. For all of us, there are times when our mind becomes concentrated, sharp, and clear. Perhaps we are doing a crossword puzzle, playing a video game, reading a mystery story, cleaning house, or cooking. For some, it's the simple tasks that engage us in ways that allow our minds to be composed and focused. For others, it's complex problem solving. Many times, however, the needs of others are what bring us to a state of sharp concentration, whether it's because we feel very secure with those we're with, or because we're all functioning under conditions of extreme crisis. We find that in the state of intense concentration, helpful insights arise on their own as a function of our one-pointedness. In these experiences, we meet a resource of remarkable potential. While we may be frustrated in not having access to it all the time, these experiences lead us to inquire whether there might be something we could do more regularly and formally to quiet the mind, strengthen its concentration, make available the deeper insights that often result, and bring them into closer attunement with the empathy and compassion of our heart. How immeasurably this might enhance our ability to help others. Traditionally, one way to begin this investigation is through meditation, systematically observing the mind itself and becoming more familiar with all the ways in which we are denied the experience of full concentration. When we do this with even a simple exercise like focusing our attention on the breath or on a candle flame, we begin to see that there is a continuous stream of thoughts going on all the time. Meditation may be frustrating if we think we can stop this process right away. We can't. But by penetrating and observing it, we can free ourselves from being carried away by our thoughts. Our thoughts are always happening, much like leaves floating down a stream or clouds crossing the sky. They just keep on coming. They uh, arise in all forms of sensations, feelings, memories, anticipations, and speculations. And they are all constantly calling for attention. Think of me, notice me, attend to me. As each thought passes, neither we attend, or either we attend to it or we don't. While we can't stop the thoughts themselves, we can stop our awareness from being snared by each one. If you are standing by a river and a leaf floats by, you have your choice of following the leaf with your eye or keeping your attention fixed in front of you. The leaf floats out by your line of vision. Another leaf enters and floats by. But as we stand on the bank of the river and the leaves float by, there is no confusion as to whether or not we are the leaves. Similarly, it turns out that there is a place in our minds from which we can watch our own mental images go by. We aren't our thoughts anymore. Then we are the leaves. If we imagine that our mind is like the blue sky, and that across it pass thoughts as clouds, then we can get a feel for that part of it which is other than our thoughts. The sky is always present. It contains the clouds and yet is not contained by them. So, with our awareness, it is present and encompasses all of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, yet it is not the same as them. To recognize and to acknowledge this awareness with its spacious, peaceful quality is to find a very useful resource within. We see that we need not identify with each thought just because it happens to occur. We can remain quiet and choose which thought we wish to attend to. And we remain aware behind all these thoughts in a state that offers an entirely new level of openness and insight. So there are systematic exercises that can help to establish us in the skyline awareness or sky-like awareness that encompasses thought. One of these meditation exercises is called letting go. It very quickly can show us through direct personal experience that our awareness is separate from our thoughts. You may want to read it through until you understand it. And then, if you choose, try it. Wrong, wrong. Letting go. Find a position which you can comfortably remain for 10 minutes with your back straight but not rigid. This time, instead of picking an object to focus, such as the breath, just observe thought itself. Simply let things happen as they do. Just watch. Be aware as thoughts arise that the thoughts are there without getting involved in the content of the thoughts. Let all images, thoughts, and sensations arise and pass away without being bothered, without reacting, without judging, without clinging, without identifying with them. Just keep letting go of one thing after another. The thoughts that arise are not obstacles or hindrances. They are just the objects of our observation. Keep the mind sharply aware, moment to moment, of what is happening, what the mind is attending to. If you feel tense from trying to watch your mind relax, the sky doesn't get all tense trying to see the cloud. Everything is just as it is. Keep in mind the idea of letting go. As thoughts or sensations, images, memories, whatever rise into your awareness, notice them, witness them, and then let them go. Keep letting go again and again. And of course, once you're really comfortable and at home in your pure awareness, then you can let go of the thought of letting go as well. For one who has not examined the mind and has always identified completely with passing thoughts, the possibility of being able to rest in awareness free of thought may be a bit disconcerting. It's a little like the caterpillar pointing up to the butterfly and saying, "You'll never get me up on one in one of those things." While we rarely are able to maintain this kind of awareness all the time, we have all experienced it at one time or another. You're waiting tables, say, at a busy restaurant, setting one and clearing another, swinging through the kitchen door with an order and a funny remark for the old cooks, and then coming back out with a tray full and noticing what else needs to be done. The group of eight is eager to order, but they just sat down. The couple in the corner is stretching out their office or their coffee while other folks are online. It seems right to stop by and say, anything else? Or you're teaching in a nursery school. You've got your eye on the whole room. The boys are hogging the blocks from a couple of girls as usual. Three kids over there are struggling a little over who's going to use the two easels. Janet hasn't played with anyone this morning, but she's better off working it out herself. Mark looks a little blue. You'd spend you'd best spend time with him right now. We're all doing it, attending to the obvious needs, but we're also behind it. The consciousness we have access to is greater than the particular thoughts we're having or skills we've mastered. We have all these, but we have perspective as well, all within our spacious awareness. What's crucial is that this awareness allows us to hear, along with everything else, whatever it is that's going on inside us. Our own mental reactions are equally objects to be observed as anything else in our field of awareness. So you notice that perhaps you pushed the couple with the coffee just a little too much. You can see they're talking over something important. And as you pass by, then you say quietly, take a few more minutes, it's okay. Or you recognize as you decide where to put your energies in the classroom that you're really quite fascinated by Mark, that's why you want to work with him. And you're not all crazy about Janet. You reconsider where to spend your time. In skillful helping action, when our awareness remains quiet and clear, there's breadth to our perspective. It's air, it's aerial, widescreen, panoramic, and yet able to focus quickly. With all of this, we are not only thinker participants, but observers in our thinking and participation as well. It's as if our mind is playing among various focal lengths. We're watching a TV show and we pull back. It becomes a show within a show, a picture of a picture, both on simultaneously. Our course, that's true of who, or of course, that's true of who we are too. We're not only a person, say, walking down a city street at night, we're also, as it were, already home in bed watching the TV show of us walking the street. So the quiet mind makes possible an overall awareness of the total situation, including ourselves. It's sometimes called an awareness of the gestalt, in which separate elements of consciousness are so integrated that they function as a unity. There's a guy up on the roof right at the edge with his infant son in his arms. He's threatening to throw him off and then jump himself. Homicide, suicide. Happens a lot with children. He's been having trouble with his wife, mother interfering. They lock him out. He's sleeping in the hallway, and it's gone to the edge. That's where he is. And I'm up there with him. I'm the final guy in the hostage recovery system we set up in the New York City, which I've been working in for 8 years and heading up for the last two. We haven't lost anybody in all that time. Now, if you're not able to see the whole picture, how he's reacting, where and who your backup forces are, what's on the street, how long it's been going on, your own past experience, the chance that this is a new kind, and certainly what's going on inside you from moment to moment, if you can't hold on to all of that and still be there listening to this guy in a way that he can feel, chances are he's gonna be go over the edge. Someone is going to be killed. We've learned that. And he's in this very intense, complex public situation. Several of us are up there. A net in the streets below, a lot going on all around. To say nothing of what's going on in him, this lack of self-esteem and manliness, feeling pushed around by his family, no work. But I can also recognize this overriding love that he has for his child who he's convinced would be better off dead than with those two. Sounds crazy, but it was real for him, real to him. So there's a lot for us to take in. So I'm helping him get a sense, an awareness of everything that's happening, just so he has the picture of it all. And the more he does, the more he is opening up to me. Turns out what concerns him most is that there there be a hearing at family court to work out fair custody. He wants a hearing, but he won't accept a promise from me or a signed note. He tells us we got to get a lawyer and have it on legal paper, which we send out to a car and find a local lawyer and get it for him. When he feels he's got support from the system, he hands us the child. At that point, we have to jump him because we know that the crucial moment to prevent the suicide. He gets pissed at me because we were talking together and now this. And I have to give him this look of that's how it all is, kid. Some part of him understands. Other times you're called into very tight situations, which you have to loosen up. I was called into a classic family fight scene, a 9 by 12 room with an 8 by 10 bed, on which is sitting a 200-pound construction worker with a knife in one hand and the hair of his wife, who's half naked on the floor, in the other. He's yelling about her infidelity, and he's already nicked her. Not much room to move around in, so in talking to him, I'm trying to expand the situation. I try to get him to talk about how he got to this point, recognize that he still has choices and think about the future. It's like I'm making the room bigger, making more room for this guy. And I have to stay very steady to do that because there is part of me which is saying, man, you've got a lot of balls accusing your wife of something at a moment like this. But as soon as I get him to pull back and to look at it all, which is what I'm doing too, you understand then there's a chance to see exactly what move will break through the pressure. That's how this one got resolved. Funny thing is, I can't remember how much of what I've been saying to people at the end of these episodes. I'm running very much on intuition from moment to moment. I've had special training, of course, but that becomes a part of you, and it's only a part of what you're calling on. You have to be steady and quiet inside. You have to have a foundation of belief in the absolute value and beauty of life. You can't get too caught up in it all. You step back, get as much of the picture as possible, and you play it moment to moment. That's what I've learned from hundreds of these situations. In a clarity of quiet mind, there is room for all that is actually happening and whatever else might be also possible. Though we may be mindful of a myriad details, our attention never wavers from the specific situation or person in need. The intimacy of our attention becomes a heart-to-heart lifeline made firm and fast. No one need fall from the edge. The quiet appreciation of the total situation and its inherent possibilities steadily moves things towards resolution. We find ways to step back. In a spirit of compassion and reverence for life, these various skills flourish and combine appropriately. Such feats might seem to be the result of crisis. Many of us have experienced rising to the occasion under such conditions. The intensity of the situation keeps in mind the mind from wandering. For most of us, fortunately or unfortunately, our helping work doesn't entail the intensity that brings forth these heightened faculties. But whatever the circumstances and however extensive the training and experience, it's important to recognize that the faculties of awareness being called into play are exactly those we have been cultivating and discovering in the practice of meditation and the investigation of awareness. General laws are operating under particular circumstances. Why, for example, if one was tightly attentive to the single object, a man on the edge of a roof, wouldn't everything else disappear from awareness? Because, as we've discovered, it is possible to notice a single thought, sensation, or situation arise, but not totally get lost in identifying with it. We observe the cloud, but remain focused on the sky. See the leaf, but hold in vision of the river. We are that which is aware of the totality, and our skills develop with practice. First, we have to appreciate the value of such qualities of mind and desire to develop them. Next, we have to have faith in the possibility that we can indeed make progress. Finally, we have to explore and practice in appropriate techniques. 20 minutes a day of such practice can lead to results and the incentive to go deeper still. Continuous practice brings about great transformation of mind and leads to a new quality of service. When we function from this place of spacious awareness, rather than from our analytic mind, we are often surprised to find solutions to problems without our having figuring them out. It's as if out of the reservoir of our minds, which contains everything we know and everything we are sensing at the moment, all that could be useful arises to the surface and presents itself for appropriate action. Sudden flashes of memory, past experience, or understanding seem to get expressed. I can't explain it. It just came to me. All of a sudden, it all suddenly became clear. I forgot I even knew that. We often call this quality of mind intuition, but we often don't treat or don't trust or honor it. Unlike our thinking mind, which arrives at solutions through a linear process of analysis, which we can follow, the intuitive mind seems to leap to a solution. Perhaps the process is going on outside the range of our consciousness. Perhaps we are delving into regions of the mind where thinking, in the conventional sense, is not necessary. Whatever it is, still an important resource of our minds and worthy of more than incidental attention. My father was dying. My mother was panicking. They were 3,000 miles away from me. I had a family and a job. All the familiar questions of these experiences: when to be with them, when to be at home and when to be at work, when to call, when to wait, when to be called, medical decisions, hospital or home, and simply what to say, how to be. I'd think and think about all this, but I would reach a point where I'd see that I had to stop. My mind would go tilt. So I would go out and take a walk or watch the river change tides and empty into the Atlantic. I'd watch kids at the playground. I'd see how the tree line had changed shape at the top of a mountain meadow I'd known for years, things like that. And sometimes I'd hear, right, it's time to be out there. I'll leave in 2 weeks and stay 10 days, or not so much advice giving, or God is with them. The right thought, something that would ring true. These seem to be to come out of the blue, but I felt trust in them and peaceful as a result. It was very reliable and very inspiring working that way. All through this illness and all the wild anxious phone calls, I'd feel answers coming. It was very reassuring. I experienced it as grace. At the end, I was able to be with them at home and to have his hand in mine as he died and my arm around my mother. Ultimately, this kind of listening to the intuitive mind is a kind of surrender based on trust. It's playing it by ear, listening for the voice within. We trust that it's possible to hear into a greater totality which offers insight and guidance. Ultimately, but really ultimately, we trust that when we are fully quiet, aware, and attentive, boundaries created by the mind simply blur and dissolve. And we begin to merge into all that is, and all that is by definition includes answers as well as questions, solutions as well as dilemmas. When we have been used to knowing where we stand at every moment, the experience of resting in awareness without any specific thoughts to hold on to and trusting our intuition turns out to be a refreshing and exciting adventure. In the choiceless, spacious awareness, we don't necessarily know from moment to moment how everything is going to come out, nor do we have a clear idea of what is expected of us. Our stance is just one of listening, of fine tuning, trusting that all will become apparent at the proper time. To rest in awareness also means to stand free of prejudices of mind that come from identifying with cherished attitudes and opinions. We can listen without being without being busy planning, analyzing, theorizing, and especially judging. We can open into the moment fully in order to hear it all. As we learn to listen with a quiet mind, there is so much we hear. Inside ourselves, we can begin to hear still small voice within, as the Quakers call it. The voice of our intuitive heart, which has so long been drowned out by the noisy thinking mind. We hear our skills and needs, our subtle intentionalities, our limits, our innate generosity. In other people, we hear what help they really require, what license they are actually giving us to help, what potential there is for change. We can hear their strengths and their pain. We hear what support is available, what obstacles must be reckoned with. But he learned more from the river than Vasudeva, who could teach him. He learned from it continually. Above all, he learned from it how to listen with a still heart, with a waiting open soul, without passion, without desire, without judgment, without opinions. Siddhartha, Hermann Hesse. The more deeply we listen, the more we attune ourselves to the roots of suffering and the means of help alleviate it. It is through listening that wisdom, skill, and opportunity find form in an act that truly helps. But more than all these, the very act of listening can dissolve distance between us and others as well. Heard. If they only understood how important it is to be heard. I can take being in a nursing home, it's really all right, with a positive attitude. My daughter has her hands full, three kids and a job. She visits regularly. I understand. But most people here, they just want to tell their story. That's what they have to give, don't you see? And it's a precious thing to them. It's their life they want to give. So you'd think people would understand what it means to us to give our lives in a story. So we listen to each other. Most of what goes on here is people listening to each other's stories. People who work here consider that to be filling time. People who work here consider that to be filling time. If they only knew if they'd just take a minute to listen. There are so many ways in which we listen to one another. I hear you, we say to one another. Such a message would be welcome indeed if, for example, it came in the words of a trapped coal miner or a deaf person who had just undergone corrective ear surgery. In most helping situations, however, I hear you reflects a much deeper message. I understand, I'm with you. Such a message can be immensely reassuring for a person who has felt isolated or alone in their pain and suffering. The reassurance does not come from the words themselves, of course, but from the words, from what the words represent. It comes from the person indeed, if the person indeed feels heard. It may not be a particular story from one's life is so important, but sharing it is a way of being together, heart to heart. In those moments, we are no longer alone with our fear. We are reminded that we are not forgotten. When two people are one in their inmost fears, they shatter even the strength of iron or of bronze. When two people understand each other in their innermost hearts, their words are sweet and strong, like the fragrance of orchids. I Ching. To reach its full potential, however, this hearing from the heart requires that we remain alert to entrapments of the mind. Seeking to help others, we may start out open and receptive, but after a short time being with them seems to bring us down rather than lift them up. Somehow their suffering, self-pity, despair, fear, neediness begins to get at us. It's a little like trying to pull someone out of quicksand and feeling ourselves suddenly starting to sink. As reassuring as it may be for one depressed person to be heard by another depressed person, the relationship doesn't really open the door to escape from depression. Empathy is not enough. Here, once again, our ability to remain alert to our own thoughts as they come and go serves us in our relations with others. We hear into their pain. They feel heard. We meet together inside the confusion, and yet we ourselves are able to note, perhaps even anticipate, that moment when another's entrapment of mind might be starting to suck us in. We are alert to what is happening within us as we are what is happening in them. The ability to avoid being entrapped by another's mind is one of great gifts we can offer each other. With this compassionate and spacious awareness and the listening it makes possible, we can offer those we are with a standing invitation to come out from wherever they are caught, if they are ready and wish to do so. It is as if we are in the room of experience with them, but also standing in the doorway, offering our hand, ready to walk out together. A woman came to see me who was suffering greatly because of her daughter. She told me her daughter was real bad trouble. She's run away to live with my other daughter down in Tennessee. And now she's forged a check with her sister's name on it, and she's gotten pregnant, and she's only 16. I've been a seamstress all my life, supporting the kids and myself since my husband ran out when the youngest was still in the womb. Now she's run away, and you can't imagine what it's like. I'm shortening the story. It actually took about 15 minutes to run it all down. I just listened as openly as I could. I could feel her pain and discouragement and felt my heart hurt at the hard life that she had had. At the same moment, I felt very quiet inside, figuring maybe all I had to offer was to be with her. A little bit I felt she was wearing the albatross of the story. Like the ancient mariner, I was just another in the long line of people who had heard it. So when she finished, I said, right. She sensed that I wasn't getting caught, and her immediate reaction was, no, you don't understand. And she recited the whole thing one more time, 15 more minutes, and when she'd finished the second time, I said again, right. This time she stopped for a moment. She'd heard me. She paused. And then, with a kind of a wry smile, I was kind of a hellion when I was a kid, too. She just let it go. For someone deeply trapped in a prison of thought, how good it can feel to meet a mind that hears, a heart that reassures. It's as if a listening mind in and of itself, an invitation to another mind to listen to. How much it can mean when we accept the invitation and hear the world anew. When she first came to see me, this woman hadn't been really speaking for 3 months, but she was silent in many different ways. Resentful silence. You do it for me. Agitated silence. I'm scared. Bored silence. I have nothing. A kind of interested silence too, but not knowing how to start. After several months, she began to speak. Now, after a number of years, she spends a great deal of time talking and she's afraid of silence, scared of being quiet. There are things that she says and she doesn't know. There are things she says that she doesn't want to know. Any movement into silence from outside or within, is really frightening. One day there was a noise outside. She paused and said, "What's that?" I said, "Let's listen." She listened for a moment and asked again, "What is it?" I said, again. She said, "Let's listen." And then she exclaimed with total delight, "It's a bird. I haven't heard a bird in years. It's beautiful." I saw it all go by. The noise, the not knowing. Imagine the condition of one who doesn't know the sound of a bird. Her wish to hear, the listening, the sound recognized, the bird. There was another long silence. Then she said, "That's just so beautiful. The sage helps the 10,000 things find their own nature." Tao Te Ching. Much then can be accomplished in the work um, of compassion by exploring the activity of the mind. Through concentration, we are able to establish a more intimate contact with one another. Through spacious awareness, we can sense the totality of situations and allow insight to come into play. More and more, we are a vehicle for service. All of this may seem as if we are acquiring something new, but that is not so. Rather, we're clearing away obstacles that have prevented us from using our natural abilities. We regain what Suzuki Roshi, a Zen master, calls the beginner's mind, one that is open to the freshness of so many possibilities. To dissolve agitations and attachments of the mind is to remove the veils from our heart. It allows us to meet one another in the purity of love. On the bulletin board in the front hall of the hospital where I work, there appeared to be an announcement. Yeshi Doden, it read, will make a rounds at 6 o'clock in the morning of June 10th. The particulars were then given, followed by a notation. Yeshi Donen is a personal physician to the Dalai Lama. I am not so leathery a skeptic that I would knowingly ignore an emissary from the gods. Not only might such sang-froid be amicable or inimical, that's what I said, to one's earthly well-being, it could take care of eternity as well. Thus, on the morning of June 10th, I joined the clutch of white coats waiting in the small conference room adjacent to the ward selected for the rounds. The air in the room is heavy with ill-concealed dubiety and suspicious of bamboozlement. At precisely 6 o'clock, he materializes a short, golden, barely man dressed in a sleeveless robe of saffron and maroon. His scalp is shaven, and the only visible hair is a scanty black line above each hooded eye. He bows in greeting while his young interpreter makes the introduction. Yeshi Donen, we are told, will examine a patient selected by a member of the staff. The diagnosis is unknown to Yeshi Donen as it is to us. The examination of the patient will take place in our presence, after which we will reconvene in the conference room where Yeshi Donden will discuss the case. We are further informed that the past 2 hours, Yeshi Donden has purified himself by bathing, fasting, and prayer. I, having breakfasted well, performed only the most desultory of ablutions, and given no thought at all to my soul, glanced fervently at my fellows. Suddenly we seem a soiled, uncouth lot. The patient had been awakened early and told she was to be examined by a foreign doctor, and had been asked to produce a fresh specimen of urine. So when we enter her room, the woman shows no surprise. She has long ago taken on that mixture of compliance and resignation. That is the facies of chronic illness. This is to be but another in an endless series of tests and examinations. Yeshi Dandan steps to the bedside while the rest stand apart watching. For a long time he gazes at the woman, favoring no part of her body with his eyes, but seeming to fix his glance at a pace or at a place just above her supine form. I too study her. No physical sign or obvious symptom gives a clue to the nature of her disease. At last, he takes her hand, raises it in both of his own. Now he bends over the bed in a kind of crouching stance, his head drawn down into the collar of his robe. His eyes are closed as he feels for her pulse. In a moment, he has founded the spot, and for the next half hour, he remains thus, suspended above the patient like some exotic golden bird with folded wings, holding the pulse of the woman beneath his fingers, cradling her hand in his. All the power of the man seems to have been drawn down into this one purpose. It is palpitation of the pulse raised to the state of ritual from the foot of the bed where I stand. It is as though he and the patient have entered a special place of isolation, of apartness, about which a vacancy hovers and across which no violation is possible. After a moment, the woman rests back upon her pillow. From time to time, she raises her head to look at the strange figure above her, then sinks back into, and then sinks back once more. I cannot see their hands joined in a correspondence that is exclusive, intimate, his fingertips receiving the voice of her sick body, though through the rhythm and throb she offers at her wrist. All at once I am envious, not of him, not of Yeshidana, nor his gift of beauty or holiness, but of her. I wanted to be held like that, touched, so received. And I know that I, who had palpated 100,000 pulses, have not felt a single one. At last, Yeshi Danan straightens, gently places the woman's hand upon the bed, and steps back. The interpreter produces a small wooden bowl and two sticks. Yeshi Danan pours a portion of the urine specimen into the bowl and proceeds to whip the liquids with two sticks. This he does for several minutes until a foam is raised. Then, bowing above the bowl, he inhales the odor 3 times. He sets the bowl down and turns to leave. All this while he has not uttered a single word. As he nears the door, the woman raises her head and calls out to him in a voice at once urgent and serene. "Thank you, doctor," she says, and touches with her other hand the place that he held on her wrist, as though to recapture something that had visited there. Yeshi Danan turns back for a moment to gaze at her, then steps into the corridor. Rounds are at an end. We are seated once more in the conference room. Yeshi Danan speaks now for the first time in soft Tibetan sounds that I have never heard before. He has barely begun when the young interpreter begins to translate, the two voices continuing in tandem, a bilingual fugue the one chasing the other. It is like the chanting of monks. He speaks the winds coursing through the body of the woman, currents that break against barriers, eddying. These these vortices are in her blood, she says, or he says, the last bendings of an imperfect heart. Between the chambers of the heart, long before she was born, a wind had come and blown open a deep gate that must never be opened. Though it charge, through it charge the full waters of her river. As the mountain streams cascade in the springtime, battering, knocking loose the land and flooding her breath. Thus he speaks, and now he is silent. May we now have the diagnosis? A professor asks. The host of these rounds, the man who knows, answers. Congenital heart disease, he said. Intervenicular septal defect with resultant heart failure. A gateway in the heart, I think. This must not be opened. Through it charge the full waters and flood her breath. So here then is the doctor listening to the sounds of the body to which the rest of us are deaf. He is more than doctor. He is priest. I know. I know. The doctor to the gods is pure knowledge, pure healing. The doctor to the man stumbles, must often wound. His patient must die, as must he. Now and then it happens, as I make my own rounds, that I hear the sounds of his voice. It's like an ancient Buddhist prayer. Its meaning long since forgotten, only the music remaining. Then a jubilation possesses me, and I feel myself touched by something divine. As we prepare to leave this digital sanctuary, we offer our deepest gratitude to the co-creators and pioneers who continue to sustain this space. Your service is a living prayer. We dedicate the merit of this gathering to the journey of every soul present. As you return to your individual paths, remember that your greatest act of seva is the kindness you show yourself. May you continue your self-seva with the same devotion you give to this group. We release the stories shared here into the vault of confidentiality. We leave the roles of helper and helped behind, returning to the simplicity of being. So gently, knowing you are never truly walking alone. Ram Ram. And to our foundational co-creators, there is a specific kind of bravery required to build a bridge that has never existed before. By combining the teachings of loving awareness with the principles of intentional peer support, you didn't just start a group, you initiated in how our two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, questioning, intersexed, asexual, plus everyone else community experiences sexuality. We thank you for your vision, seeing the intersection where our identities and our souls meet. Your courage, navigating the grist of organizational growth with a quiet mind. Your self-seva, for every hour you spend in meditation, in therapy, or in nature, because that inner work is what makes the outer work possible. You have taught us that to love, serve, and remember is not a burden, but a joy when shared in mutuality. We honor your path, we celebrate your service, and we stand on the shoulders of your love. Ram Ram. Thank you, everybody. I'm Angus Wright. I also go by Angus by Design, and I am a fellow student, a fellow explorer, and I'm on this path alongside you. If you'd like to get to know more about when and where and how to connect with ramdas.org's teachings, their community, what resources are available, please don't hesitate to reach out wherever you see this. And if it isn't me, somebody will pick you up and will guide you along your way to your next step. So thank you, everyone. Ram Ram.
And my greed and anger and lust and all those things were clearly failures. And that if I was good in pushing all that away, I would become holy. This was the model I was working on. So, if lust is going to catch me in seeing people as objects, I better not have lust. So I started to become what's known as a horny celibate. See, you don't think about sex. So you're busy not thinking about sex. It's not exactly freedom, but it's... I didn't think about, it's like giving up smoking. I haven't smoked in 4 years, 2 months, 32 days, and 1 hour. You're busy not smoking. You'll do in your lungs with that much not smoking. And I kept pushing away my humanity in order to embrace my divinity. And along the way, I got a lot of clues that maybe I was on the wrong path, but I couldn't hear it because I was getting a lot of support from my fellow renunciants because they were giving up everything. And look at my guru who only had a cracked pot, but see, he wasn't giving up a credit card to have a cracked pot. All he had was a cracked pot. That's all he seemed to want was a cracked pot. Like Ramana Maharshi, the great Indian saint, he said, I didn't eat. They said I was fasting.